Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa podcast. If you're new to our channel, subscribe, drop this video a like and get involved in everything that we discuss on this episode. So thanks everybody that watched all of last week's content. We had loads of different content that came out. The fan cams were back. Transfer Hub is now up and running as well. We did another football phone-in, so the content is there and we're just ploughing through it now. We're doing what we do best. So up next for Aston Villa is Spurs away on Sunday at 2:00. Another tough game. But glad I'm joined by Josh and Justin. How are you both?
All right, mate.
Yeah, not
Good.
bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Good stuff. I had a beauty of a Christmas present, and I just want to show everyone what I had for Christmas. So it was off my mum, massive fan of the channel. I had this little bad boy. Little beauty. So I'm going to get it framed and I'm going to stick that on the wall. So
There's
did any of you
mine
have
there,
anything? Did you have anything Christmas wise? I mean, Justin, you can't get much more, but Josh, did you have anything?
I got a few bits and bobs. I got the 1988 retro Villa strip. My partner bought me that, and my sister bought me the Villa Castore training 3/4 zip, which, by the way, it's good quality. Really, I've been really impressed with the Castore make and the clothing. So, yeah, no, I've liked that. And the in-laws bought me a Swansea top. I'm just going to throw that one out there. I know, trying to convert me because they're Welsh. So, Justin raised eyebrows there, not happy, is he?
Not happy with that, mate. Not happy. Grounds for divorce, that is.
That's just not good enough. I've
got this to do later.
Oh, Lego set.
Nice bit of Lego to do later.
I like that.
Go in the bar.
Yeah, big fan.
So, as we have a vast amount of comments every single episode, goes off like a fan forum, I've been reading them all. Bit of a mixed bag after Liverpool, I must say so myself. There was positivity, negativity, bit of everything really. So I haven't really caught either of your thoughts post Liverpool. So Josh, I know you did your watch along on your channel. What did you make of it? How are you feeling now?
Yeah, people definitely see a game of football very differently to how I watch that game. Look, I know this channel has always been about positivity, and sometimes people come and go, "Oh, come on, you got to be realistic." I genuinely believe the realist in me saw some incredible signs again against Liverpool. I think people forget that back four that they played with the goalkeeper, back five. You've got to forget how pivotal they were to win the title, to the European success that they've had. And for me, I keep comparing it, and I said this to you, Luke, over private message. I keep comparing us to where we were with Gerrard in possession to where we are now with Unai Emery in possession. And we are a completely different team. We are cutting teams open a lot more easier. We're playing through the thirds. There's a lot more bravery. And the bottom line is, every Villa fan knows that we missed big chances against Liverpool. Defensively, we pushed higher up. It showed a little bit of weakness against, the pace, the vulnerability of Konsa being able to run the other way. But I am a little bit exasperated with some of the negative comments that are coming out saying that half the squad needs ripping up. It doesn't. It really doesn't. I think you guys. I think as a fan base, we've got to realise that we've got an incredible manager who's only had 4. Am I right in saying 4 Premier League games? Or actually, was it 3 Premier League games? No, 3.
3 and 5 friendlies, yeah.
3 Premier League games, right, to put his stamp on a philosophy. And I'll go back to this. None of us could sit here and tell you what Gerrard's philosophy was, right? No one could tell you what the Aston Villa style of play is. I'm confident and be able to say with my chest, I know what Unai Emery is going to do. And I feel like, and a Liverpool fan questioned me and said, yeah, but when teams start working out that you're a 4-4-2 counter-attacking team, you're going to get found out. Can you mix it up? Well, for me, the second half of that Liverpool game was where we showed we were able to mix it up. Because I think instead of sitting back and counter-attacking, we said this is what we can do with the ball. So I'm really passionate about the fact that we shouldn't over complicate things at Aston Villa, and we shouldn't, as a fan base, pull out all these negatives and looking at the whole squad needs ripping up. Give this elite level manager and elite level coach time to take players from here to there, because it's going to happen. So yeah, passionate rant for me, but that's how I feel at the moment.
I like it, Justin.
Yeah, I echo what Josh says. I think we were there, obviously, and it, although it feels frustrating to lose, and I was frustrated at the end of the game, I think I was frustrated because I saw the chances that we created, and things could have gone very differently. And like Josh says again, we're 8 games in, three Premier League games and 5 friendlies. That's all he's had, and about a month to work with them. So, if anything, this post World Cup sort of fixtures, it's going to be a bit of a settling down period for him and the team, really. They've all got one eye on January. I'm sure all the players are thinking, right, what's coming next? How is my place under threat? Am I going to be replaced? Is he going to look at replacing the defender, a midfielder, a forward? So, you got that to contend with. And at 2-1, again, I agree with Josh. It's a good point. The second half, we've got a manager that changes things and affects the game. And I was surprised we never made any substitutions, but I wasn't surprised that we came out and we played much better, because we've got a manager that won't be, he won't let his emotions get hold of him. He's got him in at half time, and he's seen what's not working, and he's addressed it, and he sent him out. And we were the better team for 15 minutes. We had our best spell when we scored. And at 2-1, as we all know, there was I said to the person sitting next to me, I would rather lose 3-1 going for it and trying to get something out of the game than just sitting back and getting picked off anyway. And I think we did. That's more or less what happened, really. Unfortunate that we conceded when we did, because it sort of killed the game. I think if we could have held on another 5 minutes and had a real go at them at the end, I think his idea was to throw 2 or 3 subs on with 10 minutes to go at 2-1, hopefully, and try and nick something out of the game, which I think we would have been capable of doing. But it didn't go for us on the day. They hit us on a bit of a break, and the young kid comes off the bench and nicks a goal, and it's 3-1, and it felt a bit flat. But I think on reflection and looking at it, with sort of fresh eyes, if you like, 2 or 3 days after, it's an incredibly tough start to our return to Premier League, isn't it? Liverpool at home, Spurs away, 2 of the big hitters now in the Premier League, and we are in the infancy of a new manager who's trying to get his thoughts over. So I'm certainly not getting carried away. The 2 wins before the break helped massively, positional wise and points wise. So if we can go to Spurs, which we'll come to a bit, and get a positive result there, then we've got 10 games where we've only got a couple of the teams in the top 4 to play after that. So with maybe 1 or 2 additions and a bit of a rejig of the squad, players out and in, I'm very confident we can have a good end to the season and a cup run, hopefully.
Yeah, and I've been watching a bit of YouTube, different YouTubers that I watch, and they were all waxing lyrical of how good of a game it was and how good both teams did. So I think, I was a bit frustrated with the reaction, but then the next day I thought about things, and I thought about how we can get better on the next game and develop over a course of a few games and try and get a bit more confidence. And I came away thinking, yeah, there's players that did well and players that come under so much criticism, such as McGinn. I thought McGinn was good. I thought McGinn played quite well. I thought Watkins was decent as well. So some of the players that have sort of come under a bit of flack actually played quite well in this system to start with. So my next sort of point that I wanted to go on, and I want to ask Josh this question, is areas to improve. But I've just rustled up a little thing before I went on air, because I just thought, let's have another little look at this. So we've got here the goals and assists from the Villa players this season. So we've got Ollie Watkins on 6, Ings on 5, Bailey on 5, Ramsey on 4, Louise on 4. And then when I delved a little bit deeper into missed chances, where are we with the missed ones? Big chances missed. We've got Ollie Watkins on 9, McGinn on 2, Ings on 2, Bailey on 2. And then if we have a look at assists, now this is where I feel like we need to improve drastically. Dougie Louise on 3, Watkins on 3, Ramsey on 2, and Bailey on 2. So, I'm sort of looking at that, and I'm looking at like Buendia a bit, and I don't know why. And I think I'll tell you why I'm looking at Buendia a little bit now, and it's because I want every Villa player that plays for Aston Villa to do really well. I want every Villa player that plays for Villa now to do well and still play for Aston Villa. But with that, now comes a willingness for them to perform. Because I know that if some of these players do not perform from now until the end of the season, they won't be here next season. Buendia, we have to see assists. We have to see goals from now until the end of the season. We have to see him sort of getting the game by the scruff of the neck and driving us forward, because I felt like when we were on top against Liverpool from that sort of 60 to 75 period, I felt like he went a bit missing. And he's one that I'm really wanting to do so well. But I've got a question, like, where is he at times? And I think the stats back it up as well. Like, we're not seeing enough from him. So I think assists, taking our chances, creativity, not missing big chances are definitely things that we can improve on. So, Josh, where are you with improvement?
Yes, I raised a little smile when you said Buendia, because for me, it's the 2 Bs, Buendia and Bailey. Bottom line is, right, if you're to be a successful team in the Premier League, you have to have goals across the front 3, right? So look at Arsenal, Saka, Martinelli. Gabriel Jesus went 10 games without scoring. Yeah, and that's their number 9, yet they're top of the league. Brighton, a team that's ahead of us, who we've beaten, they don't have a recognisable 9, but Trossard chips in with the goals. Gross chips in with the goals. So they share the goals around. And for me, that's a big issue. Because if Watkins, who seems to be the number 9, is having an off day in front of goal, you need other players to step in. And I'm thinking about Spurs, right? And the opposition that we're playing on the weekend. I think one of the reasons why Spurs are struggling as such at the moment is because if you look at Heung-min Son, and you look at Kulusevski, and I know Kulo's just come back from injury, but when it was Richarlison, those lads weren't chipping in with the goals like they were last season and the season before. So Spurs are finding themselves in that stagnated phase of they're having to really dig deep to come back. And you can see that there. That stat is showing me now on there. Look, Rodrigo Bentancur and Højbjerg, who are their 2 centre mids, are up there behind Harry Kane. Now, previous seasons before, Heung-min Son, would have been right up there. And that for me is a big factor to be a successful team. Your front 3 have to share the goals. Salah, Mane, Firmino, when Liverpool were incredible.
There you go, Josh. Son's on 30.
That was last season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So 21-22. So Son was on 30 goals and assists, right? And he's nowhere near those levels this year. And that's why Spurs are not really why people aren't looking at them as a top 4 contender. And that for me is where you climb up the league, Luke. We have to share the goals amongst our front 3. And I think Spurs, and that stat there proves it, with Son 5.
So interesting, because as you was leading into this question, Luke, I was writing down exactly what you've just said. The difference at Arsenal this season was Jesus has had a bit of a lead spell. I wrote down Martinelli, Jesus, Saka, 3 real key components to why they are doing so well. And the biggest one for me this season, the biggest improvement in any team this season, Newcastle. And you look at Joe Linton and Almiron, the 2 players that, laughing stocks almost for a lot of their career at Newcastle. Now, all of a sudden, he's getting the best out of both of them, and they're both a threat every single game. And then you add Wilson up top as your 9, and all of a sudden, you've got a front 3 who are absolutely on fire. Now, whether they can carry that on to the end of the season, we'll wait and see. But they're doing a damn fine job at the moment of powering Newcastle up the top of the table, and that's ultimately, like the question you asked, Luke, that's where we are lacking, and that's where he has to assess it and address it. If he doesn't feel like the players we currently have in the squad are good enough to consistently score and assist week in, week out, when you can see positive performances like we did against Liverpool, as in attack-wise and chances created-wise, and you're just not seeing the fruits of those attacks and that quality play bear out with goals and assists and results, then you have to assess the front line, don't you? You have to. That's where your priority lies. He's ultimately putting the ball away. We seem to be creating a lot more chances, and I don't want to seem like I'm beating Ollie Watkins constantly, but again, under another new manager, he seems to have had the nod ahead of Danny Ings to be the frontline main number 9 striker. So unfortunately for him, he has to carry the burden of responsibility for putting the ball away. And when you miss 9 good chances and you're not scoring, had he scored 10 up to now and then missed 9, then that ratio is acceptable, I think, because he's getting into good positions, but he is putting the ball away. But he scored the hardest chance he had against Liverpool, and he missed 2 fairly straightforward finishes, as did Leon Bailey. So yeah, it is a concern without doubt. We know they're all good enough isolated games and isolated instances within games, scoring the odd goal here and there, and good finishes. But it's consistency that's the key. This is why Newcastle are currently riding higher in the top 4. Their main attackers are week in, week out doing the business for them, and we have to find that. Now, whether that's within the current squad, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, and that's sort of that is the frustration, isn't it? It's the fact that we do create the chances. It's there to see that the chances are being created, and at times against Liverpool, they were literally put on a plate. Like they were just there, just knock it in, tap it in, and So I think that's part of the frustration, and from on my part, it's just a willingness for them to do what I believe they can do, because I believe that we've got some good players here, but for whatever reason, it's just the consistency, the confidence, it's falling a little bit short for me. And we now know that we've got a manager with a track record of winning stuff, building teams that can win stuff. And the unfortunate thing for the players is you don't perform, you won't be here. So that's the bottom line. We've got wealthy owners who are showing their ambition on and off the pitch. You can't fault them. So this is where we're at, isn't it? It's if they don't perform in the next 6 months, they won't be here next season, I don't think. And that's just where I'm at. So transfer-wise then, Josh, we're approaching the transfer window. We've been, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well then, Josh, that we was linked with left backs today. So where are you at? What are you thinking? Where do you think Emery will want to bring someone in?
The left back one obviously threw me a little bit, because obviously I get it. Ashley Young can't be seen as Mr. Versatile and play left and right back. That's a given. But for me, we when you were talking there, I was just thinking the competition behind Buendia and Bailey isn't strong enough. So we look at Cody Gakpo just being signed by Liverpool.
Yeah, and sorry, this is why I don't think he made any changes on Sunday.
Exactly.
Because when we were on top, and we were really on top, you could have thought, okay, maybe if we made a couple of changes, it might change our dynamic, but I don't think we had anyone to come on.
Look, Coutinho clearly is not the answer, or within that answer. So he isn't pushing Buendia or Bailey. Cam Archer clearly isn't being favoured, not going to push Buendia and Bailey. And Danny Ings, it's a striker you're asking to play in a different type of position. So the bottom line for me is I'd like another 2 wide men, inverted 10s, whatever you want to call them, who literally, if Buendia has 2-3 games where he hasn't scored an assist, bang, you're out, he's in. So they're the 2 for me. And people are talking about the defense. I've got a lot of faith in the defense. I believe there's still, I know people were a little bit worried about the space left behind, but you're coming up against Darwin Nunez, who was a real handful of his pace and direct running. I'm happy with the defense. Midfield doesn't need tinkering at all. It's the front pressure for me. And ideally, you sign people who are going to start, because that makes the competition. What you don't want to go and do is sign another Jan Bednarak, right? There's no point signing a lad that you know is going to sit and keep the bench warm, and if Buendia has a bad day, he'll come on. We want starters, not bench warmers getting split on their ass.
Justin?
Yeah, I agree. I've read sort of things today, rumours that the two loan lads, Augustinson and Bednarak, will be sort of released back early to their clubs, which I think is sensible. I think Young can cover both the full-back slots if needed. He's proved that this season. Sanson, Nakamba, I think will be shipped out if they can get clubs to take them. I've put question marks over 3 more players. Coutinho, what do we do with him? Has he got a long-term future? Will someone take him on, which would release, a lot of money wages-wise? Callum Chambers, potentially, with Diego Carlos coming back. He's not going to get many minutes, I don't see. Depends whether they want to do anything there. Possibly not. And then I'm totally with Josh. The business end, the business has to be done up the business end of the pitch, doesn't it? The goal-scoring end. And Archer, for me, goes out on loan. I think you either do the big deal now if you can get hold of somebody that you really, really like and go for an absolute. And I would only accept an absolute world-class striker because I think we've got 2 more than adequate Premier League strikers already. So unless you're going in considerably better than Ings or Watkins, I don't think it's worth doing. Or you keep Ings and Watkins for your 9 and they fight it out for that, and you go for 2, like you say, inverted 10s or attacking wide players or whatever you want to call them, and improve where Bailey and sort of Buendia currently play and give them both, people to competition of places for those 2. It's very, very interesting. I only see 1 or 2 coming in, if I'm honest, because I think, like you, Josh, I only see us going for starters, and that comes at a massive premium, especially where we're heading now, because we're sort of mid-table now. So to get us anywhere near that top 4, you're looking at 40. I mean, you've just seen Wolves spend 40-50 million pound on a sort of striker that scored 7 in 58. So that tells you how much it's going to cost to sign an absolute world-class striker. So yeah, I do see more outgoings than incomings. I see a bit of a rejig of the squad. I think back line, I agree with you, he's more than adequate. Midfield seems to be pretty much sorted, especially with Ramsey coming back in. Cash is obviously going to come back in, and we've got Emmy coming back at the back, which obviously will improve us, especially hopefully the weekend. But yeah, it's either 2 sort of attacking midfielders or a top striker for me.
Spot on. I agree. So let's turn our attention now to Spurs. Let's have a little look at some of the stats going in there then. So we have played 54 times in the Premier League. We've won 15, drawn 15, lost 24. We've won 6 times away. Current form guide, Aston Villa have 3 wins out of 5. Spurs are a little bit up and down at the minute, aren't they? They're currently sitting in 4th, but whenever I think of Spurs at the minute, I don't think of a top 4 team for some reason. They are sitting 4th. This is our record in our last couple of games. We got absolutely battered at Villa Park. I was at the game last season where it was 2-1. I think Mora came on and destroyed us in that game. So there's some of our last couple of results. We're 12th, they're 4th. Average goals scored per match, 1.1 for Villa, 2.1 for Spurs. Conceded 1.6 for Villa, 1.4 for Spurs. This is how Spurs lined up against Brentford, 3-4-3 or 5 at the back, whichever way you want to look at it. But it's not really firing on all cylinders at the minute. I think they, for some reason, keep giving teams a 2-goal head start, 1-goal head start, and then they have to sort of come back and turn it on and try and salvage something from games. Looks like Lloris might be back. Bentancur might be back as well. Their average positions from this game against Brentford looked like this. So as you can see, fullback in Perisic and Doherty, really, really high, leaving a little bit of space here and here. But this worries me a little bit. Kane and Son, we saw how much Nunes and Salah were able to sort of break through our high lines. So that area we need to work at, but I'm sure we'll be more than prepared for that because we're just coming off the back of our high line being dismantled at times. So that's how they've been lining up. Predominantly, Spurs have been attacking down both flanks and through the middle. So there's not one area where they predominantly attack down. This was the shot map against Brentford. So they was getting a lot of shots on, a lot of shots outside the box, a lot of shots inside the box. So we need to be prepared to defend doggedly at times. But I think Emery will have a plan. I see us going there to stifle them early on, and I think we'll be playing on the counter-attack. I think, again, like Liverpool, it's important that we don't concede early. There's a little bit of discontent at Spurs at the minute with their style of play, with how they're playing. They're on Conte's back a little bit. They're not free-flowing enough. So if we can really go in there and sort of keep them quiet for the first 20, grow into the game, I think we can get something from this game. I think it will be a difficult one, but I think if we go in there with a game plan, like I say, keep them quiet. Bailey, I expect to have a big game on the counter-attack. If he can drift out wide, Buendia needs to have a big game. I'm looking forward to it. So, Josh, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's a tough one. As we know, going to the London Stadium Spurs is never easy. I really hope they start Yves Bissouma. I don't want to jinx it, but he is not fit in the Conte style of play. I watched the game against Brentford, the whole game. And yeah, he is a weak link in that side. Another weak link for me is Matt Doherty. And also, so that's that sort of right-hand side, sort of your Luca Dean, Buendia. Those two have got I really feel like Luca Dean, we could see have a really strong game against Spurs, because I think that is a weak side of them. And a big thing for me is that, again, I can't see Ollie Watkins not starting. I think he will start. He can pull that back three around. They struggled that back three. It's not comfortable. And, if Ben Davis comes in as well and maybe replaces Japhet Tanganga, I really fancy a lot of space between Buendia, Watkins and Bailey against Lenglet, Eric Dyer, and Ben Davis if he comes in. Now, I know Lenglet went off and they bought on Davinson Sanchez. I don't rate him. But I believe Spurs' defence is their weakest point of their game. And I think we've got to hurt them. We've got, and the stats haven't lied this season. You're right. I think we need to score first. I think we have to score first. I would love nothing better for us to score first, because I think that puts them in a really shaky position. The crowd could play a big part, Luke, if we get at them early and they're going a bit of not again. But look, we can't beat around a bush. We know the quality that they have going forward. And we've got to be switched on. And look, the first Liverpool goal, I thought, you think credit, they broke us down. But, some of the other chances that were created were sloppy and poor, as Emery sort of alluded to. People not doing their roles and responsibilities. Getting that 4-4-2, make it difficult, suffocate Kane, suffocate Son. And I think, who knows? But yeah, I was just looking, Emery has not had an easy start to his life at Aston Villa. He's had a Manchester United top 10, Brighton top 10, Liverpool top 10, Spurs top 10, right? These aren't his games. And I as you said, prepare, game plan. But the big thing he said, and I took away from his interview, is the players now need to execute that game plan. He said they didn't quite, some people went off-piste in the first half, second half, they executed. And so let's execute his game plan and trust us to get something.
And that's why he's such a good manager, because if you execute what he tells you to do, you will get something from the game. You'll either go on and win it, or you'll get positive points. And I think when I think about Spurs, when I was watching them against Brentford, the way in which they move the ball is very slow. Do you know what I mean? It was so slow. So I feel like if we do that to them, then I really think we can get something from the game. I think Tony and Mbremo, when they were just coming a bit deeper, getting those pockets, they were literally causing chaos. And I think if Brentford hadn't have sort of sat back for so long, they'd have won that game. They just got deeper and deeper and sat back, and they just stopped doing the stuff that they were doing to get the goals, basically. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think you make that massive point about executing what Unai Emery is telling them to do. If they do that, they win the game. So, Justin, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I think it's a key point, really, learning the Emery way, isn't it? And you can't do it overnight, can you? This is, like you say, what, fourth, fifth game in the league, competitive, real top games against good opposition. And I think the more that they do what he says, the more they will trust that, we've got a proper manager here, that we've just got to trust what he says to us is the way to do it and go out and execute it on the pitch. And the more they do that and the more the results come, the more confidence will build, and it'll become a unit, won't it? A real slick unit. Spurs is a very tough game to go. It's a tough place to go. They've come off the back of a dodgy performance. They're going to want a home game to really banish the cobwebs of the break. They've got quality all over the pitch. It's going to be tough going to get anything from there. But for me, we've got to win the midfield battle. And I potentially see Ramsey, if fit, and it's a big if because he's missed a bit of the break, could potentially come in for maybe Buendia and stiffen up sort of that midfield, because he's got the ability to get forward and run at people and take people on. We've seen that. So that could be an option. But I think Louise, McGinn and Kamara, for me, are the key three players in this game, because they've got to get into them and they've got to stop that ball into Kane. They've got to make Kane come deeper and deeper and deeper like he likes to. When things aren't going Spurs' way, you'll see Kane dropping into almost the sixth role, trying to play as quarterback, dictating play. We've seen Son's stats this season. I'm not tempting fate, but he's not half as prolific as he was last season. So whereas last season I'd be a little bit more concerned with Kane dropping deep because Son was literally burying everything that was coming his way. That's not happened this season. So I think for me, we've got to dominate the midfield. We've got to get on the ball. We've got to slow it down to an extent. We've got to make sure we get in the faces. We've got to be first to every ball, every knockdown. We've got to press high like we saw in a couple of those, games during the, I keep wanting to say pre-season. It wasn't pre-season, was it? Pre-restart, we'll call it, where we pressed really, really high. It's going to be a very fascinating game. It is, and potentially Lloris versus Emmy again, if Emmy's back, which could be another interesting side hustle of the game. Yeah, I like Højbjerg. Sorry, I think he's a good player. I love Perisic as well. I think he's a top player. So they've got quality all over the pitch, but they're certainly not unbeatable. And like you say, the back three, they're not great. I don't think. I've never particularly rated Eric Dyer, and they're playing sort of round pegs in square holes in the other two sort of centre-half spots. Nobody else can nail down a spot in that back three. So we've got to be positive, we've got to be brave, we've got to go with the game plan, which we all know we will because we've got a good manager, and we've got to go and execute it and play well and hopefully get the first goal and then, not hold on, but be positive again and just try and stop them from playing.
2022 draws to an end, doesn't it? We're playing on New Year's Day, aren't we? So 2023, let's start with a bang and start as we mean to go on. I just pray to God that we just do well. So, so that's all from us now. Thanks for watching our match preview. And let's have some scores then. I'm going to go with 1-1. I'm going 1-1. I'm feeling a goal from a defender as well for some reason. Not sure why, but yeah. Josh?
2-2. 2-2.
Little Desmond. Justin?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-2 as well. It's the scoreline I'm thinking. I love a positive prediction, but it's a very tough place to go. And I think if we came away with a 2-2 draw, I think we'd all be pretty happy with that going into the new year with games to come that hopefully we can get points from. So, 2-2.
Yeah, and like Josh said at the start, that Emery's had a lot of top teams, and we've been in every single game, haven't we? We've won the two before. We were well in the game against Liverpool, so I'm excited to see what the future now holds. So we will be back for our predicted lineup and all the other content that we do. So, plenty more from us before we play against Spurs as well. So cheers for watching, and up the Villa.
Up the Villa.